Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Peter Barber. I am primarily a professional opera singer, music producer, bass vocalist, and host of the podcast Vocal Arts with Peter Barber. And today, for the first time ever, after so many requests, I'm going to be listening to Dan VASC. I have never heard him. I've never heard any of his covers. I've just heard he is immensely talented and does amazing metal covers. So this is his metal cover of Amazing Grace that just came out a few months ago. I am very excited to hear what the hype is about. This is a first-time reaction and analysis, so I will be pausing primarily to talk about the vocal technique, as that's where my expertise lies. I will also probably point out similarities and or differences between this version and other versions I've heard, which is quite many at this point. Please do like, subscribe, leave a comment for the algorithm, hit the bell for notifications, and if I am enhancing your listening experience, which is my entire goal for this channel, please do consider joining my Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Without further ado, let's jump in. Let's analyze Dan VASC's performance of Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
Well, I'm really glad I chose to rep a black tank top for this performance. We're matching. The reason for that is because it is a million degrees in this room I'm in because there's no AC and I'm in Southern California. Okay, now Dan's voice. So we know he's a metal singer, so we know he has a ton of power and grit when called upon, that he can use that technique when needed. Obviously, to start this song, it makes all the sense in the world to take a much more soft, breathy, intimate approach so as to give your performance a place to go. Excuse me. Hello, phlegm. If you come out of the gate going full metal, then you don't really have a place you can lead to climax. You can't really take us on a journey. So it makes a lot of sense to start in a very soft, intimate place, no matter how powerful your voice can get, which is clearly what we're doing here.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
But we are already getting a big color contrast and dynamic contrast here as well. We're getting some extremely breathy moments, almost like whispering moments, but we're also getting
How amazing
grace. More vocal vocosure, a little more power, and some vibrato coming in there. So if you just compare how he sings grace with how he sings sound later in this first phrase, you already get a pretty major contrast.
how sweet the sound
Very soft.
that saved a wretch like me.
So he starts off, amazing. So he sounds like probably a natural baritone. He can sing down to that low F sharp, but it's not with the kind of heft and gravity of a bass voice. It sounds a little breathier, a little softer, but it kind of reminds me of David Draymond actually singing those F sharp twos in the early parts of Sound of Silence. It's like access to the notes, but clearly not where the voice opens up and is strong. I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Like me.
Just a beautiful, soft, pure tone on that F sharp 3. Nice vocal closure, but it's still very delicate, and also it is just his voice as of now. So certainly no other elements of metal. I have a feeling this is going to get pretty crazy. I do.
I once was lost, but now I'm found.
So right, so we can get down to that F sharp, and metal singers often do have a pretty crazy range, like Jonathan Young, who has become a friend, which is very cool. He will be coming on the channel shortly for an interview. A natural bass. That's a natural bass. His voice is like just as low as mine, but he can sing crazy high in the metal belt kind of technique.
Was blind blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear.
So he's still able to maintain vibrato to fear down on that F sharp 2. And clearly, all right, so second verse, this is like traditional building up of this arrangement where first verse of Amazing Grace is totally a cappella, just voice. Second verse, you increase the intensity of the voice a bit, and you start adding instrumentation, and that is exactly what we're getting here in Dan's version.
My heart to fear, and grace my fears relieve.
Oh, I love that. That's called a suspended fourth. It's one of my favorite things in music. You can tell Dan, as far as vocal technique, likes to use a little bit of nasality to get a little bit of brightness and forward presence in the sound. Grace, grace, grace. There's a little bit of that, little bit of ping in the nose. I'm overdoing it a little bit. No nasal resonance would be fee. There's a little bit of that. You can sense the air actually coming through his nasal passage, which adds a little bit of that bright sound. And because it's such a small cavity, it does add a little bit of that high harmonic content in the sound, which can be great for a cutting, more forward sound.
How precious did the grace appear, the hour I first believed.
So vocally, same exact range, right? This is a strophic piece, meaning the melody stays the same each verse with a change of text. Vocal approach very similar, but he has added a little bit of power and intensity in the second verse, and we have the added instrumentation. Let's see. It's actually structured very similarly to Sound of Silence. Literally, is it the same key? It's not the same key, but it has the same low end and the same kind of strophic pattern. So let's see if he starts taking it up the octave now. Surely he will at some point.
Through many dangers, storms and snares, I have already come.
So that's up to F sharp 4. This is, I would assume, still very comfortable for Dan and his voice. You can already tell this is like more where his voice wants to go, especially as he revs up the intensity, because I believe he is baritone, tenor, like definitely higher voice naturally, who probably due to all the like kind of powerful metal singing has actually extended his range downward some. But I would think this is more like where his comfort zone is. This is where he will sing most of this cover.
Just storms and snares, I have already come.
And good vocal fold closure there, meaning there's not much air coming through. That means it's going to result in a more powerful sound and a kind of singing you can sustain for long phrases because there's literally less air escaping. So you can, it's kind of counterintuitive because in a really efficient sound, you have a more powerful sound and a sound you can sustain longer. You would think a more powerful sound would require more air, but it actually requires less air because there's less air escaping during each vocal fold oscillation. And he's keeping this very small, though. This is not his full power belt. He's keeping it in a very small place. Again, we still have a long way to go in this cover. So even though he's already up in this higher range, he's clearly keeping things in reserve to keep the intensity revving throughout.
Me safe thus far.
Key change. Oh, major key change. Ooh, that sounded like it wasn't in the key. Ooh. So we're in F sharp major now, and he just played an A natural, which is essentially the minor third. Would be the minor third in the F sharp minor, but we're in F major, but he played that A natural, so that's why it sounds odd and out of place. Maybe indicative of where this arrangement's going. Maybe it's about to get a little dissonant. There it is again. So, obviously intentional. I love the orchestration in the background. It's beautiful.
When we've been here 10,000 years.
What note is that? Oh God, that's way higher than I thought. Okay. High A flat.
When we've been here.
Okay, A flat 4, below tenor high C. Great vocal fold closure. The vibrato is not quite relaxed and natural. It is a little bit forced. It's more coming from here as opposed to, if you can see, I don't know if you can see this, all the way down in the diaphragm. Really, you don't want the vocal folds to be working, aside from doing what they naturally do, you don't want to have any extra tension here. There is a little bit of added tension in this vibrato. Again, I've never heard him before, so I don't know if this is like kind of a staple of his technique or what, but it is worth pointing out. There we go. So that, I believe, is what is what is so special about his voice, is this super high, gritty metal belting. That is my interpretation. I think that's why people have fallen so in love with his voice and his music. That is a high B natural. It's just one half step below the famous tenor high C, and he's there with full chest voice, and with that added grit, makes for a super intense, awesome sound.
10,000 years, bright shining as the sun.
Hell yeah.
With none less days to sing God's praise than when we first began.
I also love. I'm like generally like hypercritical about things like vibrato, because that's such an important part of the intense bel canto operatic training that you go through as an opera singer. So you learn very quickly, not very quickly, actually, it takes a long time. You learn how to figure out which vibratos are really coming naturally that are totally free of tension, and which vibratos are a little bit more manufactured. But on the other side of that coin, because the style of singing I do professionally is so efficient, and it's all so heavily technique based, and it takes so long, I have so much love and appreciation and jealousy for people who can do the metal style singing, because it's always something I've wanted to do, and I have hesitated hesitated because it's not the style of singing you do for opera. And you basically, I was talking with Elizabeth from the Charismatic Voice. You can do them both, but you really need to separate them. So like, if I have time off from an opera production, I might be able to dive into the gritty singing, and then kind of get back to the operatic singing, because they are very different styles of singing. So I have so much admiration for like these big gritty rock belts that Dan can do, that Jonathan Young could do, that Colin McGuinness can do, because it's not something I do. And I really admire people who either do what I do better than me, or people who do things that I can't do. Full admiration. So I'm critical on the kind of technique that I can relate to. So critical on the vibrato and the natural vibrato and the breath support and all that stuff. And then just like in awe at the things I can't do, like these big gritty rock belts. So something he's doing, something clearly that helps him get to those high notes, instead of amazing grace, he closes down very quickly to grace, because for him, that's something he's figured out that helps him access those higher notes and put them in a place that he can sing them well. Singers will do this. This is called vowel modification. And in opera, we do it very intentionally. We think about how the kind of physics of the sound waves work within the voice, and then you modify to line up with that. You don't need to know anything about that. You can just do it because of how it feels. And a good, talented singer will do what feels right, and it will actually turn out to be the helpful thing to do. So at this place in his range, so high A's, high tenor, high A. Grace, grace. So he's open on the G, grace, and then closes the vowel down A on that high A. So this is a matter of comfort. It's a matter of what works best for his voice that he's figured out. See, that shit is so cool to me. Up to a D5. So above tenor high C, this is probably some kind of mixed belt, but a very chest-dominant mixed belt with a lot of grit added into the sound, and it's just so cool. And it really, really is working for this song, I think. I think it's great. That's an F5? I like how he goes, he goes to that leading tone. He goes a half step down and then goes up. So you can see, so Dan uses a bit, so A, absolutely incredible, amazing. You see now, the vibrato Dan gets is more, some people call it jaw vibrato, because it's kind of created by a very slight movement in the jaw, which you can see here as he's up there, as opposed to a natural oscillation of the vocal folds. So the voice in its natural, most healthy state, just free of tension, will spin. You actually have to add a little bit of tension to sing without vibrato. So it's funny. It's like all this training to sing healthier comes from basically just like bad habits that people have when they start. Like by trying to sing, they introduce tension into the voice when the goal at the end of the rainbow is to sing not without tension. You have to have some tension, obviously, to just create sound, but minimal tension so that the voice remains very free and kind of organic. So you can tell with Dan, this vibrato comes from a little bit of jaw movement to create the vibrato instead of the vibrato coming from like deep down and like really connected deep into the diaphragm.
Was blind, but now I see.
Very cool ending, actually. I want to flag another vowel modification thing he does. So, and this is one we do in opera all the time. So instead of see, he goes see, see. He kind of puckers the lips because what that does is it actually lengthens the vocal tract. It lengthens it a little bit and it adds a little bit of darkness and warmth to the sound. Instead of being like a brighter sound, it's a little bit of a darker covered sound. We do it all the time in opera to create, again, that kind of warm, darker sound you opt for as an opera singer. And it's cool to see Dan using it in metal as well. Normal, normal, normal. See, his lips are just puckered in a little bit. See, instead of see, see. And it just adds a little bit of that warm, dark color to it. Either way, though, super epic. Epic. Really, really cool voice. I mean, obviously, I think the best part of his voice is that really high metal belting. I think that's probably what has earned him his big following on YouTube and elsewhere. Crazy upper metal belt range. Absolutely loved it. Loved the grit. Hope you guys enjoyed the commentary. Hope you learned a bit about Dan's singing, about what makes him a special singer, what makes his voice unique, his strengths, a little bit of his strengths, weaknesses, whatever else I pointed out during the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something. That is my absolute goal on this channel, to provide value and enhance your listening experience. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.